What is fractional ownership? When we say fractional ownership, what we're talking about is owning a percentage of a private jet. It really should be said private jet fractional ownership. Designed to be a bridge between charter and whole ownership. It was supposed to be the blend of the best things in those two worlds. But private jet ownership and fractional really is the same thing, except that instead of owning 100%, you just own this sliver of an airplane. And there's real advantages to doing that. First of all, tax benefits. There's an incredible amount of tax benefits surrounding aircraft ownership, and you get to take advantage of those through a fractional program. But don't confuse fractional with other types of co-ownership. So what a lot of times will happen is a group of friends or buddies will get together and they'll say, let's buy an airplane, which makes sense because they know they're going to be sharing the costs. However, what usually happens is they'll buy the airplane, put it in one LLC, and then all the buddies and friends will buy membership into that LLC or stock. The issue with that, there's now only one tax strategy that can be had. With fractional, when you own a 16th or a 6th of a jet, you are now independent from all the other owners. Even though you only own a percentage of the jet, you get to treat your percentage as though you owned the airplane all on your own. You can now have your own tax strategy, you'll have your own co-ownership agreement, you'll have your own program agreement, to where it doesn't matter if you fully depreciate your shares, where then somebody else, they may take no depreciation or do some type of straight line depreciation. When you do fractional ownership, you are really getting all the benefits of whole ownership at a fraction of the cost. Another key point to remember is that when you do fractional ownership, you are now involved in fleet economics versus a single aircraft. That's important because if you and your buddies went out and you bought an airplane, you still would have single point failure, meaning that if the plane breaks, pops tires, you have a flight crew issue, you have some type of mechanical issue, now whatever trip you had, you either have to go charter an airplane or go take the airlines or somehow get out of that situation, meaning that airplane is no longer going to fly. But when you're a fractional holder, even though you own a fraction of an airplane, in every program you get access to a fleet. That also means you get access to fleet economics. These are all positive things. Where the industry screws this up, though, is in a few critical areas. One, most big fractional programs only give you a limited term to be an owner, meaning that for a period of time, let's say typically 5 years, I'm only going to be in that program. So there's a definitive start, you buy in, let's just say for $1 million, and then you know in 5 years you're going to be bought back out. But here's where they screw it up. For how much? How much money are you going to get back at the end of your term? Now, all the data that we have suggests that you're going to get somewhere around 40 to 50% back, meaning that if you've bought in for $1 million, well, over a 5-year period, you might get $500,000 back. Trouble with that is that when you take that $500,000 and amortize it over the amount of hours that you fly over that period of time, typically jacks the hourly rate way up. People don't realize this, but you have to factor that into your equation. Right? So if I'm going to basically lose $500,000 in 5 years, that's $100,000 a year that I've got to figure out, well, if I only get 50 hours a year, divide it over $100,000, and I'm going to do that for 5 years, you need to look at your hourly rate really, really close. The other thing that is troublesome with traditional fractional programs is that you have this monthly fee. You have to decide in advance how many shares and how many hours a year you're going to fly, and you then have to be able to predict the future to know that over this 5 years I'm going to fly X amount. And if you miss, then you're overpaying for things that you never really needed, or if you need more, then what's going to happen is you're going to have to renegotiate the contract and buy additional shares for another 5 years, which you may or may not need either. But let's take it one step further. What a lot of people don't know is that the fractional fleets also have a charter offering, and they do a lot of chartering. That's fine, except that they're using your airplane to do it. Now, at the end of the day, that is not a really big deal if they were to share revenue. But a big problem in the charter industry and in the fractional industry is that when fractional airplanes are being used for charter, none of that revenue comes back to the aircraft owners. And I think that's a scam. I think what really needs to happen is that the fractional owners should benefit from the charter activity, or lower the hourly rate, or actually write them a check. The problems with traditional fractional are basically threefold. One, you don't know what you're going to get back. You're not getting any revenue from the fractional provider. And then there's this mystery as to what actually your share is going to be worth. Now, here comes the plug for Paradise Jets. We fixed all that, okay? At Paradise Jets, we looked at this and we said, we need to actually take this and flip it on its head. Inside of our fractional program, any shareholder has a guaranteed 80% buyback. So if you put in $1 million, you know you're going to get 800,000 back, but we have no term, meaning that the length of ownership period could go out for generations. So instead of having to, in my previous example, take a $500,000 depreciation problem and have to amortize that over 5 years, we've basically said, well, here's a $200,000 problem, and you can amortize that over literally generations, which then takes the cost of ownership and the hourly rate way, way, way down. The next thing is that we have no monthly fees. People go, well, how do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple. We talked about it. There's a charter market out there. So if the aircraft owners are not using the airplane, then we'll go and we'll charter the airplane. And then it's not overly complicated, but there's a formula to where as long as our costs are covered, then as we're chartering the airplane, there is a revenue share that comes back to the owners. Not only are we eliminating a big part of the problem of not knowing what your airplane's going to be worth or what your fraction's going to be worth, we also have no monthly fees, and then you also have revenue share where revenue is coming back to you. So we are literally writing you a check. Fractional has always been designed to be this bridge between whole ownership and charter. And in a lot of ways, it can be and should be. At Paradise Jets, we've solved all the major problems that the traditional fractional programs have, and we've made it much more cost beneficial and common sense for you. I'm Jamie Thomas. This is Paradise Jets. Come fly with us.